The island of Sodor is the home of the North Western Railway, with engines of all shapes and sizes, working hard to deliver goods and passengers to their destinations. There are branch lines that run along the coast of the island, serving the docks, the fishing villages, and the seaside towns. There are branch lines that run to the farms, quarries, and ancient castles of the island's heartland. And there is the main line, which runs all the way from Knapford on the west coast of the island to Vickerstown to the east. The line continues over the Vickerstown Bridge, where it connects to the mainland beyond. Thomas and Percy's field trip. James had been taken away to the works for mending. His whistle wouldn't work properly. Spare whistles were to be delivered, but the order was delayed. The Fat Controller didn't want to waste time waiting, so he quickly arranged for Thomas to head for the Kirk Ronan branch line to cover James's passenger duties. Thomas was absolutely ecstatic to be going, as he would get to see Percy once again. Just as he expected, Percy was overjoyed to see his best friend too. "You have no idea how overwhelmingly busy it's been on the line since James went away," he bubbled. Thomas just smirked. "No work's hard enough to slow me down, Percy," he boasted. After a while, the two friends started talking about their latest stories. Percy was especially keen to tell Thomas about the time he first met Hugh. "It's true about changes," Thomas piped up after Percy finished. "Take it from me." "I know," replied Percy. "What's been new at Farquhar?" "Last week," Thomas explained, "some vandal stole Toby's bell and whistle when he was meant to take some students on a field trip around the branch line. Then I was told to jump in and take over. Things were going fine until we suddenly encountered the thieves who stole the whistle and the bell at the next station. My crew was quick to catch them, and they were soon arrested afterwards." "That sounds pretty eventful," Percy cut in. "And that mention about field trips reminds me of the time I helped give those kids rides for you back in '93. "Oi! Cheeky!" laughed Thomas. "You just had to bring that up, didn't you?" "Say, what did happen in that year?" quizzed Emily curiously. Thomas glanced ruefully towards Percy. "Why don't you tell her?" he said. "All right then," giggled Percy. "You asked for it." It was a cool early morning, and Percy was just heading on his way back from the big station after helping with some extra shunting. That was until he caught a glimpse of Annie and Clarabelle looking very shiny and spotless. "You two look like you're fresh out of a workshop today," he commented. "What's the occasion?" "We are to take the children to Codyfell Mountain Railway," replied Annie giddily. "Though only as far as Killane Station," added Clarabelle. "Gator is going to take the children from there on. The Fat Controller needs us back for some work here, and Gator will bring the children back to the junction." "That does sound rather exciting." "I wish I were to take the children," Percy sighed wistfully. "Thomas just makes it look all so easy." "That's because I'm a really useful engine, obviously," gloated Thomas, who had eavesdropped in on the conversation. "I get my passengers to their stations on time, and don't dilly-dally around the yard shunting trucks all day long." "I don't dilly-dally," squeaked Percy indignantly. "You've been dilly-dallying yourself. What about that time you were looking for a shortcut to beat Bertie in that race 11 years back, eh?" "Give me a break," yelled Thomas, aggravated. "If I recall correctly, that was your idea, Percy." I remember. But would a really useful engine take that silly idea as genius? And speaking of silly ideas, what about that other time you left your snowplow on the side of the main line and only had to take Annie and Clarabelle for you because it was missing? From what I was told, you ended up being stuck in the snow trying to search for it. That's true. Very true. Well, what about... Luckily for Thomas, his driver arrived, and they soon set off. Can't keep on arguing, Percy. Really useful engines have important work to do. More like can't come up with a good comeback, Percy whispered to Annie and Clarabelle with a wink. Thomas and Percy are good friends most of the time, but from time to time they do argue with each other, as some friends occasionally do. The children finally arrived at the top station and hopped on board the train. Thomas, meanwhile, was still stung by his argument with Percy earlier and just wouldn't stop brooding. I am a really useful engine. Percy just doesn't seem to understand it anymore these days. I'll show him once I get back from Kildane, he grumbled to himself. I'll make sure I'll get the kids back to the junction on time. They'll have loads of fun at the Cody Fell. Right, time to show Percy that I, a really useful engine, don't dilly-dally. I'm getting a bit tired of you phrasing yourself as a really useful engine just a few too many times, groaned Annie, annoyed. But Thomas didn't hear her. He was far too distracted thinking what he'd say to Percy next time they met. Come on, come on, come on, he fussed to the passengers. We must be on time. The passengers got on board quickly, the guard blew his whistle, and Thomas scurried heavily away. He was so blinded with impatience, let alone his eagerness, to show Percy a thing or two, that he wound up being careless. For pity's sake, Thomas, be careful! Sweet England! More speed, driver! What do you think you are, Thomas? A racing car? Just do it! Looming up ahead was Hackenbeck Station, and just as he neared the platform, Thomas was still picking up speed. But he failed to realise till the last second that he was going in much too fast. Oh boy. What are you looking at? Just you proving what I said to you this morning. You were more of a silly egomaniac and a show-off rather than really useful. I've contacted the Fat Controller about this scene. and expects to see you at the sheds at the top station. Yes, station master. Later that afternoon, the Fat Controller, Sir Charles Topham Hatt too, arrived, clearly looking more than displeased.
Thomas, the tank engine. What's this that I've been hearing about you speeding recklessly along your branch line? Have you been racing Bertie the bus again?
No, sir. I swear I wasn't. I was trying to prove Percy wrong. Thomas was rubbing his pride in my face again, sir.
1 second, Percy, rapped Sir Charles. Prove him wrong about what?
That I'm not a silly engine, Thomas grimaced simply. It was all because he was boastful to me this morning, sir. He was blathering on that a really useful engine like him gets to take the school children today because he does a dilly-dally, and then I pointed out all the nonsense that he had done previously.
Is this true, Thomas?
Yes, sir.
Well, you can add your unnecessary speeding to that list of yours, Thomas, and because of that, you have now been suspended from your duties.
Wait, what? Suspended, sir?
For overrunning a red signal, in case you've forgotten. Furthermore, we are here to serve the public, and their safety is the #1 priority. Percy, you'll have to look after Thomas's passengers and bring the children home from the junction too. I'll get Duck to look after your shunting for the day.
Thank you, sir, peeped Percy delightfully.
Oh, sugar!
So Percy looked after the passengers for the whole day, and seemed to be doing incredibly well after waiting so long for the chance. And then he finally got to take the school children. That night, he puffed alongside Thomas and Toby. He had a wonderful time with the field trip. Thomas was still feeling sulky but mostly foolish about his antics. He looked towards Percy and muttered, "I'm sorry for being so boastful. I suppose I really am a silly engine after all." Percy couldn't help smiling. "You may be silly, but only at times," he replied. "Today is history, and in the years to come we'll look back on this and laugh at it." And here we are today, and we're laughing at it now. I'll admit, however, I did go at full speed on occasions afterwards. But I've stopped that now. Indeed. But at least I got to take the children on their field trip in the end. And both he and Thomas laughed.